absolutely pleasure to have you on the show, Joseph Valente. If anyone hasn't seen The Apprentice, then they're missing out because it's a great show. And I was watching The Apprentice. Was it last year you won The Apprentice?
2015, buddy.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, 5 years ago. No, 4 years ago.
Was it 2015?
2015, yeah,
when
man.
was it on the TV? That's what I want to know. When did it actually go on?
2015.
Dude, that feels like last year, man. I remember little Tash and stuff.
Your time clock's all messed up, bud.
It's so messed up. That's crazy.
You know the funny thing? We actually started filming for that on April the 26th, 2015 was when I went away. So it has been literally 5 years to the filming element of it. Crazy stuff.
When I absolutely tell you God's honest truth, when I was watching the show, I was rooting for you. And I told you that when we first started chatting and stuff, when we first met. But I was rooting for you, and I was so glad to see you win because you were just clearly the best contestant.
Thank you very much.
obviously, Sugar thought that. You gone on to do great things, both in terms of business and in terms of also helping others, being prepared to put yourself out there. Sometimes when people do well, they hide away and you don't hear from them, but you actually talk openly, freely, put yourself out there. So that's absolutely excellent. So to talk to me a little bit about the beginning. So for anyone that wants to know like the background, like how did you get started in business? What's your story?
So I was expelled from school when I was 15 years of age, and I actually went and did a plumbing apprenticeship. I didn't have anything to do with my time, and I approached the local plumber and I said, look, instead of going to school, can I come and work for you for free for a year? And when I'm 16, you start paying me and put me into college. And that's exactly what he did. And that's how I entered the plumbing and heating industry. I was able to excel very quickly through the plumbing and heating industry, qualified plumber at 18, qualified gas engineer at 19. And then by the time I hit 22, I was servicing and repairing boilers every single day. And I thought, is this what the rest of my life is going to be like? Like many people probably in employment, they reach a level and then it just becomes the same. So at the age of 22 was when I decided to start my first business, and that was Improgas, the one that I took onto the show and the one that I built national. And I started that, funnily enough, off the back of reading Lord Sugar's autobiography for Christmas. My mum bought me it for Christmas. Basically, I was 21. I just got back from Australia. I'd been living there for a year. And I came back, got back into the same job. And then over that year in 2011, between Christmas and New Year, I was a bit demotivated. I was doing the same thing and I needed some inspiration. My mum got me Lord Sugar's autobiography, which was this one, which I've got here, funnily enough, from last night. What you see is what you get. And I hadn't read a book for many, many years, probably since like year 6, because I wasn't a self-educator at 22. I wasn't into personal development or anything like that. So I read this book because I was a Mad Apprentice fan. And over that 2-week period, I saw how someone in one lifetime was able to create billionaire wealth coming from a council estate and a poor background. I didn't come from a council estate, but I came from a poor background. So I saw his journey and it made me think that if this guy can do it, then so can I. I couldn't see anything that he had that I wasn't able to replicate. So at the end of that 2-week period, I literally quit my job, took out a £15,000 loan from Tesco's, and it was a home improvement loan because I was getting about 50 grand a year at 21 for the job that I was doing. It was a home improvement loan, no business plan, no idea of how I was going to start, but I was so motivated and so fired up that I knew that I was committed and whatever was going to happen, I was going to succeed. So took out this 15 grand loan, bought a £1,500 van, branded it Improgas. And then I bought a £500 suit and I hit the high streets in the property management market and started trying to sell to estate agents to take their maintenance contracts for plumbing and heating. And that's how I got started in business.
That's so cool. And you know what's really interesting? I don't think I've ever told you this before, but when I was at school, my dream job was a plumber.
Was it?
That was my dream job. I really wanted to be a plumber. And then I decided I didn't want to be a plumber after all. I wanted to get into property. And I'll tell you another thing I've not told you about me as well. I don't know what year, because you know how terrible I am with timescales, remembering when things happened. but I actually applied to be on The Apprentice and was turned down.
Oh no.
So I don't know what. I'll have to look and find out what year that was. That was
Yeah.
I might have been about 20, I suspect. But so you became a plumber. I mean, just the fact that you were 21 earning 50 grand a year after being, did you say you were expelled from school?
Yeah, expelled at 15. Yeah.
That, I mean, I know you've gone on to achieve a lot more than that, but just being on a 50 grand a year pay packet at 21 after being kicked out of school, that in its own right is a big achievement, because most 21-year-olds aren't on 50 grand.
I know. And, you know, when I was expelled, everybody wrote me off, you know, and I got to give lots of value to the audience and lots of takeaways.
Yeah.
You know, I was in a position where I'd come from a poor background. My mum worked 3 jobs for £3 an hour doing cleaning. My dad was an alcoholic, unemployed, bum, didn't work. I don't see him or speak to him now. I haven't since I was 13, but he didn't work. And, you know, I didn't have any inspiration, any motivation really. But then when I got expelled, I realised that I was on my own. I realised that my circumstances, I was making excuses as to why I was acting up, why I was being bad. I was blaming him. I was blaming my background. I was blaming the teachers. I was blaming everybody. And I realised that if I wanted to change my life, I had to take control of it. The cavalry weren't coming to save me. No one was coming to save me. Everybody had given up on me. No one was going to help me. And I had to decide to make a decision to change. And that's exactly what I did. You know, and I've always felt that I was destined for something special. My aim in life is to create legacy that lasts 1,000 years when I'm gone. And I knew that I could do it. I knew that I wasn't an idiot, and I was only bad because of my circumstances, but I knew I could change it. And I decided then that I was going to go to war on my career, and that's when I got into plumbing and just excelled so quickly through the ranks. And you know, it's a good job for people at 50 grand a year. That's a fairly decent income for people that want that.
That's why I wanted to become a plumber. I knew that the plumbing was good money. I knew that I wasn't a super educated person, and I thought maybe I could make decent money doing that.
And that's exactly kind of why I started. The guy that was that I went and did the apprenticeship with was 25. He drove a BMW. He had a pretty girlfriend, and I wanted to be like him.
Yeah.
And everybody said that plumbers made 50 quid an hour. You know, and you know, probably similar by the sounds of things to where you grew up. No, the mates that I had, there wasn't a lot of motivation. People weren't wanting to take over the world. You know, going into a labouring job after school was like the best thing you could do to get 50 quid a day. And being a plumber was like the next level up. That was like huge to the people that I knew that worked in supermarkets and so on. So, you know, it seemed like the one to go for, and it has changed my life. You know, I know a lot to that industry.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you said that your mom got you the book, Lord Sugar's Biography. What? How old were you when that happened?
21, 22.
You've got to give your hats off to your mum for that, because she kind of, although she was a cleaner and wasn't a wealthy, successful businesswoman herself, the fact that she got you that book. Why do you think she got you the book?
You know what it's like when parents run out of ideas to get you presents when you're older. They don't really know what to get. It's like, well, I'm going to get you some pants and here's a book, you know. But at the same time, Sam, I've always been a mad Apprentice fan, right? I've been obsessed with it since the very first series when Tim Campbell won, when it was on BBC Two. I used to watch it. I used to vision from the early days, you know, when the Gherkin was on there and that helicopter would fly by. You know, I was a village boy. I was from a village and I wanted the big city. Like, it just used to excite me so much. And when they used to slide the doors open and get out in the suit, like that was what I wanted for my life. So each series, I always thought I could get on that and I could smash these people to pieces. You know, I can absolutely boss this out. I'm a leader. I can win this, no problem. Yeah. And then she knew I was obsessed with it. And I think that's why she got it.
Let me ask you a question.
You know, I was obsessed with him as well at the time. I was a fanboy, big time. You know, I really was.
Question about The Apprentice, Joseph, about how you got on and stuff. So, what was the application process like? Did you think you were going to get accepted onto the show? Like, talk to me about that. And what made you? What really made you do it?
Okay, so first question, what you said, did you think I was going to get on? A lot of people say to me, did I think I was going to win it? And my answer is always, of course I thought I was going to win it. Nobody enters into a competition if they don't think they can win, or they might do, and that's why they don't win, right? So first and foremost, yes, I 100% knew that I was going to win, and you have to think like that if you want to succeed, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't win, you have to think like that. You can't be thinking 90%, oh, I might win. No, I'm going to win 100%. So yes, I thought I would get on the show. And yes, I knew that I was going to win, because every time I enter a competition, I have to think like that. But the application process. So let me tell you a little bit of how strange this all is. So I've been in business for 3 years. I was 25 when I applied. I was doing about $500,000 a year in revenue. I had 7 plumbers working for me. I had a small office. I was running everything from my mind, like we were a good little business, 3,000 homes on contract. And I'd leveled off in my business career. I'd hit my ceiling. I was 25. I didn't know about business. I was a plumber that had started a plumbing business. I wanted to grow. I needed mentorship. I needed cash. I wanted exposure. I wanted the world to know my name. And then I came in on January the 9th into my house that I had at the time, got Facebook up. And it said the last call for the apprentice, 24 hours to apply. And at that very moment, I'm very spiritual. I believe a lot in the law of attraction and the universe, and I'm always looking for signs to confirm that it's the right move for me to take things. And I knew at that moment that that was my opportunity. I knew that that was my calling, because I was just feeling like I'd leveled off and didn't know what to do next. And so I applied to go on, and then got accepted, which is incredible. You know, and a lot of people say about the application process, what did you say? How did you act? You know, I said I wanted to be the godfather of business, make Lord Sugar an offer he cannot refuse. One of my people that I admired was Hugh Hefner. I wanted to be a playboy. I wanted the girls, the cars, and the money. You know, all of these things are what they brought up on the show after.
That's crazy you said that stuff. I can't believe you said that.
I know, right?
Really humble. Maybe that's why I didn't get accepted.
You definitely did.
You were outrageous.
Come on, Sam.
What's that?
You're out. You love it, baby. You love it. So look, you got to say those things, right? Because number one, at the time, I kind of believed it. I was 25 years old and single, and I was doing quite well, and I liked that lifestyle, and I wanted to be rich and famous and have cars and penthouses and pretty girlfriends. That was just how I thought at that time, right? and I always, you know, and I always think it's important to get noticed. You've got to stand out, right? Yeah. It's really that simple, right? And people don't like that, but the reality is it's true. And if you want to be seen, you've got to be prepared to do things that other people aren't. And, you know, that's making an impact or making a statement or whatever it may be.
Do you think, though, Joseph, do you think that they like that kind of thing? Because if they have people with a big ego, it's more entertaining for the viewer to watch them people then get crushed.
Without a doubt, yeah. You're not going to go on there saying, listen, I let my actions do the talking. You'd never get accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to write that in the application form. I let my actions speak for me. But then they'll say, "Oh, you're not quite." You know, you've got to understand what game you're playing in life. Everything is a game, right? And you've got to understand what the rules of the game are. Yeah, if you want to apply to get on a competition like that, what are the rules of the game? Right, well, they need to see who I am. I need to make big statements. I need to make them believe I'm going to be entertaining. I need to give them proven track records of what I've done so they know I'm going to be successful. I need to create myself as their ideal profile so they choose me. There's 60,000 people applying for this stuff. So how do you get in there if you're not unique, right? So always understand the game that you're in. And then it's the same when you got on the show. You know, there were certain things, you know, there's no fake recording, but you know, you understand what type of attitude you need for the producers. You understand what the kind of things they want you to say. You need to understand how you need to act, you know, and they have their way of editing and filming. So if you can master what they need and do it for them, you're double playing the game. And that's the skill that people need to be able to master, you know, and that helps, and that helped me, you know, and I was able to do it. But I was very, very true to myself. I was very straight. I was very open. I was very honest.
You were. One of the things you didn't do in The Apprentice, you didn't like badmouth everybody. You didn't come across arrogant at all, I didn't think, on the actual show.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think everybody was kind of shocked by that because of the way that I looked back then, and because of the things about Hugh Hefner. People thought that I was a showboater that couldn't back it up.
And if I remember rightly, didn't Lord Sugar make you shave off your moustache?
Yeah. Well, he didn't make me, but this is where I'm smart, right? So they kept talking about the moustache, and actually I lost the property task because we were selling high-end apartments, and I went to this estate agent in London, and I was like, yeah, I want 4% for selling your properties. I'm the best salesman out there. I'll absolutely smash it. And he gave it to Richard and Barner. And to be honest, I know what he did because they're much more well-spoken than I am. And he probably thought they were better represented in his type of properties than me. Even though I still sold $250,000, one in Stratford, $750,000 apartment on that day, and that sort of kept me in that task there. But what was my point? So that one, he said, look, you were too young, you jumped in, you were saying too many stupid things about getting higher commission and everything else. And then we went to and then I got through that. And the next task was the interviews. So I knew they wanted me to change my image. And I knew, right, that if they could tell the story to the viewers, that this rough guy had come in from his background, you know, and he come in as a bit of a joker, but he actually backed up what he did. But The Apprentice molded him into this really suave looking businessman, that I was going to play their storyline for them, right? And so I went, that night, I said to the producer, listen, I'm going to shave my mustache off in the morning, come and capture this because this is a piece that you can put on. So that's exactly what I did. And then I went looking like this, where I was much more slicker, hair back, it wasn't up, really sharp. And then in the interview stages, I looked like a different character, and it just played an absolute blinding story role.
Listen, so you won, right? How did it feel when you won? Was it like a massive deal? What was the experience like when you got when Lord Sugar said that he wanted to buy into you?
The most proudest thing for me out of the whole experience was when it gets announced, because you don't know until the day that you're on the You're Hired show who wins. They like announce it like a few hours before, and then it gets played out, yeah. Right. And you're in a room and you're away from your family, and they take the phone, and then I walk out on the stage, and Jack D was there, and Lord Sugar and that was sitting there on the You're Hired show, and I walked through it, and I just remember that feeling. They were cheering my name and clapping, and I just walked through, right, strided through, and I clocked down in the corner my mum sitting in the front row, tears streaming down her face, because when I was expelled at 15, we walked out of the headmaster's office, and she cried, and she was like, what the hell are you going to do now? You've ruined your life. Yeah, because she thought it was the end of the world for me, that getting expelled from school. And I said to her that day, listen, don't worry, I'm going to make you proud again one day. And then this 10 years, like fast forward 10 years, I just caught her eye, because I love that woman to pieces. I caught her eye, and she was crying but smiling, and I was just like, yes, I've done it. Like, I've made her happy. So that was a pretty awesome moment. That felt incredible. Yeah. But the win was a little bit surreal. It was more confirmation that I wasn't nuts thinking that I could pull it off, and I actually pulled it off. So I think that's a very big lesson for a lot of people. Your first major success can be, a lot of people think they get successful first time because they get lucky, but actually that first connection means that you've proved to yourself what you're capable of, and then you should be able to then replicate that without continuing to question.
You know what, Joseph, I always say this in property, you've probably heard me say it, that your first deal is always your hardest deal, because once you get that first deal, whether it be a property deal or a business deal, suddenly the confidence that it gives you, you can just then duplicate and do it again and again and again. And I guess it's the same. Every time you win, like you win The Apprentice, that feeling of winning, as long as you keep putting the work in, the momentum of winning, once you got that on your side, just means you're just going to keep winning, keep winning, keep winning. Success breeds more success.
I don't disagree. And, and that was good. And that was good. I think the next thing though, Sam, which was probably a bit strange, was you get that high followed by quite a big low. And, you know, you win and it's amazing and you're built up to like 9 million people watch that show a week. And, you know, I was walking in the streets, everyone was wanting pictures and everything else. And, you know, you're just in this new life. It was amazing. I was getting invited to all these super do's and events in London. It was incredible. You know, NTAs and bits and bobs like that. It was like, I just loved that environment. I was 25 and I loved it even more. But then you're like, whoa, reality kicks in. And then I had to go back and run a plumbing business. And I never went on that show to try and be a reality TV star. I went in to be a businessman and to learn. So I know that learning business is sustainable for life. 15 minutes of fame comes and goes, like many it has. And if you don't learn anything else substantial, you drop off the face of a cliff and then you're, you know, back into average life again. So I knew that it was the right thing to do, but it was also very difficult to just go back to normal, like just go back to work. And then, you know, the interviews were still good, but they was dropping down. And, you know, then you're like, just like, you're not in demand anymore. So I felt that a very strange thing to handle. You know, you look at Tyson Fury, he talks about how he beat Klitschko. You know, he spent his whole life winning the world titles. And then after he beat him, he's like, wow, what's next?
Yeah.
What more can I do? And it was my story is a little version of that, really, at that moment, because The Apprentice for me was everything. It was like winning my World Cup, winning my world title, and then it goes, and you're like, whoa, what? I need to feel that buzz again. Yeah. And then from that moment, I went on a mission to try and feed myself with more achievements. For book, podcasts, like anything I could get that would get me recognition that was almost an unachievable task. And I still kind of feel that way now. You know, I don't want to skip too far ahead because you might have some questions, but at the moment, it's like, man, I need to set my sights so big, because if I don't, I get really depressed. I don't know, maybe you're the same. If you don't have, like, you're not moving forward in business, or you're not doing deals, or you're not, you know, it's hard to take to just be normal anymore and try and live like a content life. I really struggle with that. I have to keep going so big.
And I always say that, well, I don't always say, actually, I say it very rarely, but I strongly believe, and I say to my close people, my friends and family, that actually the more successful you get, the more lonely you get. And success is obviously good, but actually without significance, you're going to be left pretty empty, because you're going to hit the goal and it's like, and then what? It's the reason why astronauts, when they go to space, they get back and they're absolutely depressed, because there's no higher place to go from that. Whereas I feel that when it's about you, when it's all about me, I want to win The Apprentice, I want to get $1 million in my bank, you hit it, and it's like, actually nothing's changed. But when it's about others and it's about significance, that gives a different type of contentment. And I think that's what you're finding now. That's the reason you're on this show right now with me, because you found that in sharing and in speaking and in writing books and podcasts and actually sharing your story, then you're doing what Lord Sugar's done. Lord Sugar become very, very successful. I'm sure that he does The Apprentice. I'm sure he does it not for the money. I'm sure he does it because the significance and the fulfillment. I mean, I don't know, but I suspect that's why. And people ask me all the time, if you're so successful in property, then why do you teach others? And it's like, you're actually missing the point, because when money's no object anymore, then you've got to do something. You know? So I think that's what you're figuring out. That's what you're figuring out.
Yeah, and you know, look, I've always been like one to try and shower my friends and family in gifts, because you're right, money is easy come, easy go, and it's easy to make. And you know, the better car that you buy, the better the apartment that you get, the better holidays that you go on, that's all great, but it is empty. And giving back is where the enjoyment is, and teaching others. You know, I am so blessed and pleased that I'm entering into this personal development world, because I didn't feel fulfilled being the CEO of a national boiler installation business. It just wasn't what I was sent to this planet to do.
Finish the story of the business side of things, because it's really interesting, and then we can go into kind of like what you're doing now. I know you've got great charity stuff as well, which we can talk about. You've written a book. You've been in Forbes magazine. So the business. So you got it to a point where you were doing very well, but you needed to scale it. you teamed up with Lord Sugar. He bought into the business. Is that what happened in The Apprentice?
So, you know, you think about me starting the business off the back of reading his book. 3 years later, I sold him half of it for £250,000 quid.
That's insane. That's insane.
Laws of attraction, baby. That's what it is.
You know what, massive. Can I just say as well? I know I've said this before, but massive respect, man, and congratulations on that. Because I tried. I applied for The Apprentice and got turned down. You got accepted and then won it. That's a massive achievement. And honestly, like, I think you just did so well on that show. So you then grew the business with Lord Sugar for a few years. You then sold the business back to Lord Sugar.
So we were in business for about 2 years. I got it to $1 million a year, about a year and a half, got it to $1 million a year. And I wanted to go national, and I was beating the drum for growth. They wanted me to go a lot slower, and they were pulling me back every board meeting. No, we don't want to grow this quickly, blah, 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 blah. And I was said to them, you know, and it got to a point where the board meetings became very challenging, very difficult. It was a bit negative. It was negative for me. You know, I at 27, 28 years of age, wanted to create a business that was going to take over the world. You know, I was obsessed with Sugar's story, being Amstrad, and you know, how he built it. And I know that he smashed it in his late 20s, right? So I wanted to be like that. So to go and be told that I need to go slow and have a little plumbing business was not what I wanted to hear. Whether it was the right or wrong information, I didn't want it, because I didn't want to be in plumbing forever. I wanted to grow quickly and exit, right, and get out so I could go into the world that I'm in now. That's what I was sent to do. So I said to them one day, listen, I don't like keep coming here and you keep saying to me, slow down. I want to risk everything that we've got and go for it. If we bust, we bust, right? But if we win, we win. That's what I'm prepared to do. I understand that you want me to stay quiet in the background so each year you can parade me and say that he's made a little bit of profit and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not Lord Sugar's business partner. I'm Joseph Valente. I've got my own brand. And you're always going to be in the guy's shadow. Yeah, massive respect to him, and I'm so grateful for what he did for me, but I never wanted to be in his shadow. I want to carve my own path. So I always knew that as well was going to be difficult. So I said, look, I understand where you are coming from. If I'm going to grow this rapidly, it's risk with rapid growth. And you don't want to keep pumping money into the business and so on. But I want to grow it that way, and I'm prepared to put my name on the line to do that. So if you're not on the front line with me, right, and you don't want to do it this way, then let me buy you out, and I will go it alone. And we will part ways, and then you'll say thank you, I'll say thank you, you say good luck, and then anything that bad happens is on my head. Yeah, and then he said, look, respect. I understand where you're coming from. We did a deal and I negotiated it and I got out. And you know what? Everybody says about risk and reward, and you got to have big bollocks, right, in business. You really, really have. You got to have big balls and you got to make big moves. And I was 27 at the time. Yeah, 2 years ago, I'd won The Apprentice. And now I was making a move to go on my own. The first apprentice to ever do this, right, and to buy him out and go on his own. You know, I'd had to go and tell my staff that I'd done it, and they, you know, imagine what the press are thinking and people on the outside, and, you know, it was scary. It really, really was, but I wanted this more, so I was prepared to make the jump. So, you know, the lesson is to people, you've got to do big things if you want to have big wins, and you've got to be brave, and you've got to be ballsy, and you've got to go for it. And I bought him out at $1 million a year, and when I exited the business, we did $1 million in a month. That was our best month on record, and that was only a year and a half later. So I went on to scale it nationally by myself. I had 150 people in the company. In 2019, we won National Installer of the Year, beating British Gas. I'd launched in Scotland, I'd launched in Cardiff, I'd launched in every major city in the UK, in Great Britain, sorry, not Northern Ireland. And we built a massive company. Now, we got to a point where we've gone through rapid growth. The options for me were to get investment, to keep funding it. We were fighting BG. That's how big we'd got without the funding. So we'd got to a point where it was a risky business anyway, because we'd got so big with no additional support. Everything was so tight at that level. I mean, it's a very low margin industry as well. You know, another lesson that I learned is always go after big margin business.
Yeah.
You have to put the same 18 hours in, whether you're making or 100%. Right, you got to put the same time in. So pick your products correctly. And it was a low margin industry and it was challenging. So we did well in November. This December we took a massive hit in sales in December 19, halved our sales, wiped our cash flow out. Brexit had hit us hard. The winters are getting warmer, and we were direct sales, so I had a national sales team that would go out, sit leads, and then sell boilers. If the leads dried up, we had no recurring revenue in the business, and we didn't have big reserves. So it put us at massive risk. So I had to do a very quick sale with a company called REL Capital, which was like a investment recovery firm that have deeper pockets and funding to the business. But to be honest, when we won National Installer, and this is what I say to everybody that I'm coaching, like, have your goal and stick to it, have a plan and get out. When your time is your time, don't go beyond that, and be brave enough to know when to move on, because sometimes, you know, these things are holding you from these things.
Yeah.
You know, that smaller things. And when we won National Installer and I put my first man in Scotland, I actually felt this like whole wave of energy drained from my body. And I was like, shit, I've done what I set out to do 7 years ago. Because at the beginning, when I had that van, all I could ever think about was a national business. I was done. I wasn't just in business for money. I do what I do for my own personal success and ambition achievements in my mind. And when we hit national, I was done. I didn't want to stay in anymore. I didn't want to try and make millions out of the business and millions. I wanted to move on. I was done. And you know, as much as it was a negative that we had to sell very quickly, it actually released me from a prison that I'd created in this business. Yeah, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, managing our business with 150 people. It ain't a good life, right? And especially one in a tight business, tight industry, and an industry that you don't really have passion for anymore. You know, I didn't want to sell boilers. So it actually created an opportunity for me to get out, you know, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. So
yeah, that's really interesting. So basically you grew the business to a nice healthy amount. You then teamed up with Lord Sugar. He bought in, you scaled massively.
Yeah.
Then bought him out and set up on your own. You then scaled massively again. You had such a big growth that your profit margins weren't great. You were relying on recurring income. Your overheads were massive. Things got tricky. You weren't enjoying it. You hit the goals you wanted to hit. And then you just felt like, actually, you know what? I'm not enjoying this anymore. It's stressful. And you sold. So now, what are you doing now?
So I got out in January, and then I instantly started up a coaching business in the construction space, because there's no one doing personal development in construction. So my thing is, plumbers start plumbing businesses, electricians start electrical businesses, builders build houses, but nobody's teaching you how to run a business, right? I was a plumber that was ambitious. No one taught me how to run a business. I made so many mistakes, wasted so much money, right? But I was lucky enough to learn from some top people. You know, last year I had the former managing director of British Gas as my personal advisor. He was retired, and he was watching me on LinkedIn and came to me and said, "Joe, I can help you at Infra," right? And he was 62. He ran them at 540 million a year, 100,000 installations a month. And I was paying him a lot of money to teach me. So I've had Sugar and a load of others. So some great mentors, which basically turned me into a businessman. Because how do you go from one man in a van, a plumber that wasn't educated really academically, that just learned plumbing as his qualification, to being a CEO, running a team of senior managers that run a team of mid-level managers that ran a team of employees, running a national operation, doing 500 installs nationally with a huge supply chain, and all of that was on me. So I learned some skills. So I thought I can help so many here and teach these guys that are ambitious, because the one-man bands usually are only there because they haven't got a clue to how they want to grow. So I can show them how to grow. So started that, scaled it up to 30,000 a month in 4 weeks from recurring revenue. Excellent, great profit margins. Much better lifestyle, so much less stress. And I've been doing that for the last couple of months. And that's going great. And now I've launched, so I know obviously I've been watching your journey, and I know you're smashing it in the event space and so on. So I launched an events business on the day they basically they said stop mass gatherings. We were going to do business boot camps where it was just general training, and then offer the opportunity to come onto our advanced training at the end. So 3 days training, yeah. And then we organised our first event in London on like March the 12th, 20th, or whatever the date was, in South Bank. 150 businesses confirmed, and only 12 showed up. It was a disaster. The night before, they stopped all Premier League games. They shut the pubs down, so nobody came, really. But we still managed to do quite a good event, and I put it on, and we did actually sell some courses and stuff. But the last 2-3 weeks, I've been in lockdown. Now, what we've been in it now, 5-6 weeks. The first 2 weeks in lockdown, I was demotivated. I was still running my coaching business. We flipped it on Zoom, so I wasn't desperate for money or time, but I don't like sitting around. So I was like, right, what's the future look like here? Forget about thinking that in 2 weeks or 8 weeks I'm going to go back and do this events business again that I really want to do. Right, that is done to a level. It's going to come back, but then I thought, right, launch online, start selling through webinars, and create something. And then Power to Succeed came out of a brainstorming session, and I thought we can sell sales courses, we can sell coaching courses, we can sell how to launch a podcast courses. People will buy this stuff because they're in their homes, and it's adding so much value to the marketplace right now. So I've done that and launched a few webinars, as you know. It's been quite successful. So just hopefully really excited about growing that, really. Is where I'm currently at.
You love that stuff. You love that stuff.
Love it. Love it. It's born for it.
Also, you're property as well. I know you've got property. Talk about how we met, because I know you've been following my journey for a while. You've been watching my property videos.
Yeah. So I've been watching you online. I remember seeing you about 4 or 5 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
And I used to see that. I used to see that one where you'd hold the buy low, rent high book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always used to see that coming up on my Facebook. That was probably like 3 or 4 years ago.
I was watching you in The Apprentice. You won The Apprentice, then you probably started watching me, and I just didn't know.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So we've. I mean, I had a rent-to-rent business for a while when I was younger. We had about 5 properties on that. That kind of fell to the wayside when I was growing British ImpreGas.
Yeah, because when you got grown a multi-million-pound company, having 5 rent look as exciting.
I said to you the other day when we spoke, I think one of the biggest things that I regret, and I don't like to say regret, but I do think back and think what would have happened if I'd have gone into property and where I'd be right now. Not that I'm not grateful for where I am, because of the journey, and I wouldn't have had The Apprentice or the brand. So I think, and where I would have been, because in all honesty, I started the Property People about 4 to 5 months before I applied for The Apprentice. And when because I was going to sack off ImpreGas, in all honesty, because at 24, I didn't want to be a plumber anymore. I'd got it to quite a big level, and I hated running the business. It's a hard business to run. Right, people going into people's houses, and they need to be multi-skilled, and they can damage things, and it's low margin, and there's so much manual operation in supply chain to run it. It was such a challenging business, very, very stressful, that I was going to quit it and go into property. And I only stayed in it because of The Apprentice. And then after that, I had a point to prove. So I had to stay in it longer and longer and longer. Yeah. And I would have got out sooner if not.
If you'd have just followed my journey on the property stuff before The Apprentice, would you be richer or poorer now?
I think I'd be richer, but I probably wouldn't have the brand.
Yeah, you definitely
wouldn't have got the Forbes. I wouldn't have got The Apprentice. I wouldn't have had a billionaire business partner. I wouldn't have met a lot of the people that I met. Do you know what? ImpreGas was hell. Right, running that company, and it was like insane levels of. I look back and I still don't realise how the hell I put myself through that rapid growth in what we did, because it isn't manufacturing where you just make a computer, whack it in PC world, and then you can sell millions and it's repeat. It was so many people involved in that operation. How we put it together so quickly, it nearly killed me.
Is the company still running?
Pardon?
The company's still running?
Yeah, the company's still running. It's ImpreGroup now. Yeah, I sold it on. So we sold out the brand, the assets, intellectual property.
How do you feel now? Like when when, I don't know if you've experienced this, but your morning alarm, and then when you hear the sound, it kind of gives you like a feeling. I don't have that anymore, but I can relate to it back in the day when I was like at school. But
Yeah.
when you see, if you saw like a van go past the Improgas, would you kind of get that feeling, or would you think, wow, legacy, I started that, and feel really proud?
Definitely number two.
Good.
And thank my lucky stars that I'm not running it anymore. You know, you've got to think, the new owners must be going through hell. They bought it off me, and then they went straight into Corona. Like, I'd be having nervous breakdowns right now. Yeah, if we were, I know what it was like when we had a bad month in December, and it was gonna wipe us out almost. You know, I pulled a deal out of nothing.
Loans though, dude. They probably just got some loans out, and they're just thinking long term.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, they are. Yeah, and they furloughed their staff and stuff because they shut down for a short period. But, you know, I wouldn't have had that money or that time. So I'm just so glad that I got out when I did. And, you know, I think being good at business is just all about timing, you know, and it's having that view and that vision into the future of knowing when things are necessarily not going to work. And I looked at the industry, I looked at the landscape, I looked at how it was changing, I looked at the business models where people were selling them online and people were self-surveying, and it was causing, you know, people were jumping on that, but it was wiping the margins, and it was going to take us out anyway in 24 months, really, because there was just no money left in the game. You know, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. So I'm glad I pulled it off when I did, you know.
And start all over again from scratch right now with the brand that you've got, the knowledge and the experience that you've got, but with no money, what would you do?
Personal development.
How do you do isn't personal development something that you do in a business or alongside? What do you mean? You do
sorry. Teach personal development.
Why do you love teaching so much?
I just love helping people.
Do you get?
You know what, Sam? The reason being, you're in a business where people will come to you and they're going to say, you know, I've learned this and it's amazing. I was in a business where people were ringing up because their boiler had busted and they had no money, right? Yeah. So you're in that, and it's a negative buying experience. I want to be around people that want to win. Yeah.
You're able to teach, right? Because you've got a story. Right now, you've got been there, done that, got the T-shirt. You've scouted business. You've had failures. You've had mistakes. You've had successes. You've been in Forbes. You've made millions of money, millions of pounds. You've teamed up. You've had business advice from Lord Sugar. So you're able to do that. But if you were starting again from scratch, you had the experience. Let's say you didn't have the brand, or you didn't have the proven track record. Let's say that, because not everyone can just do that. If someone just started up a training company like right now with no backstory. Then that.
Sorry, I thought you said if I had the backstory.
I did. I changed my question.
All right, go on then.
From scratch, but you knew what you knew, but you didn't have the brand. You didn't have the.
Okay. Maybe if it wasn't personal development, it would be property, and if it wasn't property, it might be finance.
What do you mean finance? What do you mean?
As in brokering finance.
Okay. I think property would be better. I think stick with that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I do want to go big into property development for my own portfolio.
That's how we started chatting. I think you messaged me on Instagram actually.
Yeah.
I said, look, man, I'm growing my business and I want to start putting profits into property and I want to grow that as well. An investment business.
Yeah.
We also have a mutual connection with Grant Cardone. I don't know if you know him personally, but I know you're. You were at the 10X.
I don't know him personally. We've exchanged a lot of messages on Insta, and I went to Vegas in January and did the diamond ticket. So we did the meet and greet and all that type of thing.
Cool.
And they had a private party with his hangar in the jet, and Rick Ross. That was pretty cool. That's cool. Where I got talking to him. But
what do you think about the advice that you've had off of like Lord Sugar compared with the way that Grant Cardone teaches? Is it different? Is it similar?
Grant Cardone's my type of guy in terms of style. Lord Sugar was just very blunt and brutal, and you know, it's just every time you were getting an ass kicking. It's like, even if you do something good, you're getting an ass kicking. Like it wasn't a positive. It wasn't necessarily a motivate. He's not a motivating guy. you know, all you got, I'm not bad mouthing him, but look at his Twitter. It's just negativity after negativity. He's always pulling out Morgan or calling someone a twat. You know, there's no positive statements coming from that Twitter feed. I can't do that. It just drains me. I don't want that negativity. So, you know, I want to be around somebody that you know, Lord Sugar's story is a badass, right? And I respect him so much. And I always loved him, regardless of whether we split or what happened, right? I always loved him because of respect. I didn't like him. I don't mind saying that. And he knows I didn't like him. Well, I don't like him, but I respected him. Yeah. Is the difference, yeah? Cardone, I respect, and I like him. I just like his style because he's motivated. He makes me feel good. He gets your energy built up. Yes. He's a guy that makes moves. So, you know, it's a much better way of teaching. And, you know, this is a personal, I do a lot of self-assessment. And, you know, people in my business in Impro will say that, you know, for a while, I was a complete wanker. Right, I was that guy that was walking around. I would be shouting at people all the time. You know, I ran things military. You know, people were scared to approach me. They'd get a bollocking. You know, and I remember thinking at about 28, 29, this isn't how I want to be perceived. And this isn't how I want to support and help people. And I literally flipped my style to where I wouldn't shout anymore. You know, I was so trying to find the positive in everything. You know, because I was big enough to know that I was going to be like Sugar, and people were scared to approach him. You know, I saw in the board meetings, his most trusted advisors were scared of him still. They'd shake when they were trying to talk to him. I didn't want that. So, you know, I made a conscious effort to change my style, where I was motivating, where I was supporting, where I gave help. Don't get me wrong. If people cross me and they're taking the piss, then they're going to feel the wrath. But, you know, you've got to, I wanted to be seen as a much more positive figure rather than the guy that they were scared to knock on the door of. Does that make sense?
You know, I'm the same as you on this one. My staff aren't scared of me in the slightest. I'm quite approachable. We chat. I motivate them. I kind of see it as I'm there to. I work for my staff as much as they work for me. My job is to serve them and to support them. I mean, obviously, I'd never criticize Lord Sugar because he's very, very successful, and I respect him as well. Grant Cardone. The thing is, though, I guess where I was going at is that Grant Cardone, like one of the things that you said was that you said that Lord Sugar was telling you to keep it smaller, and you wanted to scale it, and he was saying keep it small, and you were thinking, but that's probably not what he would do, but he's making me do that. Grant Cardone would definitely not have given you that advice. He'd be saying 10x, 10x, 10x. That's kind of where I'm getting at.
The thing is, everybody, if there's one thing that I've learned in my time is everybody has an agenda, right? And everybody's agenda is different to everybody else's agenda, right? And their agenda was that they wanted to keep the win small, and that you go every year and you say you're doing well, and they don't want risk. Why would he want aggravation and to grow a national boiler installation business when he's a billionaire? Why would he want that risk? He doesn't want it, right? He wants you to play the part of his story, yeah? And that's understandable. I get it. I understand his agenda. He ain't gonna want someone at the back end going, come on, let's grow, let's grow, let's grow. He didn't necessarily want that. He's like, right, win the show, here's the money, here's some advice from me, I'll fulfill my obligation. Now you build a business at the back end that don't cause me any aggro. And then he's supported by a team of, you know, the team that you got when you were with him was his FD, his assistant FD, the accountant, and the secretary. Right? What an accountant's known for? Being conservative. Right? Yeah. They're the most reserved people on the planet because they're cautious is what they have to do. You're sitting in a room with Lord Sugar and 3 accountants. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creator. Right? I'm a risk taker. The blend isn't right. Yeah? That's just the way that it is. Yeah? It's, you know, the category of people is different. So, I saw that and I knew that and I understood it and I get why it was. But I had my own agenda. Right? My agenda was to go massive, and I saw them as holding me back. Everybody has a different agenda, and there's nothing wrong with that. The word agenda isn't a bad word, right? But everybody takes something from something because they use it for something, right? It's understandable. It's how business works. You know, if you want value and you want to take and you want to do what you got to do, you know, but your agenda is to get more money or to make more profit or to open new markets or to whatever it may be. Everybody's got an agenda. You just need to understand it and embrace it, really.
Yeah.
But you know, Cardone's agenda is to go big. That's what he teaches, and that's what I like. And going big isn't always the best option. You know, we probably went too big with Impra too quickly. Probably did. But the reality is, it was either that, I always say to people, and now especially, you spent your whole, people who talk about, oh no, slow and steady, you don't want to scale too quickly. Imagine running a business for 15 years, 20 years, and all of a sudden, Corona has come along and wiped you off the face of the planet. And you spent all that time not risking or growing too bigly because you were worried about going out of business. Now something has just come and punched you in the face and took you out of business. You know, you might have had a valuable business worth a lot of money 6 months, 2 months, a month ago. Now, in the new world, you've just lost all the wealth you've ever built in your business because there's no value there anymore. You can't even sell the thing because your restaurant, your brand isn't valuable anymore. No one's going to eat in a restaurant for God knows how long. Right, and it may never come back. Hospitality might be gone in the world that we know. Deliveroo, Uber Eats, you know, that's drive-throughs, takeaway. That's where the world is. So
that's interesting though, because I heard, I mean, like Ty Lopez again, he's doing really, really well. He's got an online business.
Yeah.
He is now at the moment sort of not bragging, but he's saying, I said this was going to happen. You know, online's the way forward. Everything should be online. And whilst I think he's got a good point, part of me thinks, but the thing is, Ty, and everybody that's saying this, you don't know what could happen. It could be that the internet goes down.
Yeah.
And then, if you've only got an online business and you've not got a bricks and mortar business, you're stuffed. Like, you've just got to diversify a little. And I don't think you can put all your eggs in one basket or say, or even think that you're bulletproof, because there's always some risk associated with business.
100%. You know, the eggs in one basket thing is definitely not the way to go. And I had all of mine in Impra because I was just so focused on building it. But you do that based on a really positive outcome. You know, I expected to sell that business for 50 million. You know, in whatever deluded world I lived in, that's what I expected when I was growing it. You know, when you're naive, you associate national with huge value. But the reality is it's not that way all of the time. It isn't that black and white in business.
Do you have any regrets, or has there been any mistakes that you look back on and say that was a mistake?
No, because now I'm so much a better person for it.
Yes.
Right? If I hadn't effed up, right, then how could I go and coach businesses and tell them what not to do? The real value in a coach is to help you from making the mistakes, not necessarily tell you how to do it, because most people can succeed right quickly, but it's keeping that success and it's stopping it from falling apart is the hard part. Yeah,
okay, flip question. What are the points that you've done? You've written a book. What's it called?
Yeah.
It's called From Broke to Billionaire Boardroom?
Excel from the classroom to billionaire boardroom.
Yeah, cool. I need to read that, actually. I've not read that book yet, but I will. So you've written a book. You've been in Forbes 30 under 30.
Yeah.
Massive hats off. You won The Apprentice. You scaled a business. Like, what's the biggest? If you had to look back and say, that was the thing that I'm most proud of. That's the thing I'm most, what is it?
It's a tie-up between Forbes and The Apprentice. Forbes is recognised internationally, the under 30 brand, and I get a lot of respect for that. But The Apprentice, you know, it was just my all-time favourite. It changes some when you ask that question, but at the minute, based on how excited I was when I was speaking about the journey again, it's The Apprentice. It really, really is. It was just an incredible moment in my life that I just so blessed that I got to experience that, you know.
So you're doing a bit of teaching now. You're getting into property. What's the next big massive thing in 5 years?
So the next big massive thing is TV. So I've got a really good format for a business show. I want to be a presenter, not a contestant. I want to knock The Apprentice off its 9 p.m. slot on BBC One with this new show. So I want to get back on.
You're still as arrogant as ever. You're still as arrogant as ever.
I miss that. I miss the attention. I don't mind saying that. I don't want people to think I'm honest. So you either respect that or you think I'm a dick from it. Regardless, right? I'm always straight with people. I miss attention. I loved it. I thrived off it. And it wasn't just for the ego. I just loved it. It was good. You know, people, filmmakers, movie stars, musicians, you know, they like being on stage. I like being on stage. I like performing. I like being in front of people. So I want to get back on TV. I want to write a couple more books. I want to grow internationally now. You know, like I've done the UK, I've conquered this island in one industry. Now I want something that I can have in every continent. You know, I've done so much, so I've got to have something big to feed my ambition. Because when I was growing it, because about the beginning of 2019, when I said I'm going to commit to Impro now, right, I'm going to scale this national, or I'm going to, you know, or I may as well just quit. So I stopped podcasting, I stopped social media, I stopped socializing, and I got basically, because all I wanted to do was just focus 18 hours a day on this business. And rightly or wrongly, it worked for the company, but it killed off everything that I loved and was passionate about. Yeah. Got me proper depressed. And now I want to focus on something again that excites my soul.
You know what, Joseph? It's not about how much money you make. It's about what the kind of life that you lead. And I think that for me, I've made a lot of money. I've got a lot of money. For me, if I make 100 million next year, or if I make just $1 million next year, my actual life isn't going to be much different. I just have a salary. I live in a decent house. I got a nice car. I go on nice holidays. For me, it's not about how much you can like make anymore. It's good to make money, but it's about what kind of a life am I living? If I'm making a lot of money, but I'm not doing what I'm enjoying every day, then that's a lose for me. If I'm living an exciting life, I'm inspiring people, I'm happy, then that's great. And success and failure are not two different things. Success and failure go together. The person that fails the most will probably succeed the most as well.
Yeah.
True failure is just not doing anything.
I agree.
True failure is just not doing anything. True failure is I didn't take any risk. I didn't have any businesses. I didn't have to ever fire anybody. I didn't have to ever. That's true failure. I just lived an average life. I got paid £7.50 an hour, and I complained and watched EastEnders and looked forward to the weekend.
I couldn't agree more.
That's failure, you know, not having mistakes and things and like, you know. So I think, I mean,
I think for say that again.
How old are you? You're 30.
30 now. Yeah, 30. Yeah.
You're a lot older than me then.
Say that again.
You're a lot older than me then.
I know. I'm a lot older than you. Go like that. Oh, yours is better than mine. You got Botox in there.
No, I've got this rash though going on every time I exercise.
I'm going for wrinkles on the forehead. So yeah, I mean, look, I want to go internationally. I think you're spot on. You know, money and material objects just become by the wayside. What I want to, the thing for me personally that gets me out of bed now is having a big goal. Like growing internationally, if it makes $1 billion, 10 billion, $1 trillion, or a quid, right, I still want, not a quid, but I still want to make more than that. But, you know, I want to go international because I need to have something that gets me excited again that I may never achieve. But, like, just helping people on an international scale. Now, I just want to help as many people in every country. If I can replicate what I do into different languages and go personal development in every state, that's where I'm at. You know, that's where I'm at. But I do think, and as you're saying, which is something that I've learned very recently, it's about the giving back element, the fulfillment, the excitement.
Talk to me about your charity work.
We just launched something called the Big Brothers Program, which is basically about supporting 11 to 18-year-old young lads that don't have a father figure. So they will join like a young person's mentoring and mastermind group where I will coach them, where we'll bring in other figures to come in and coach them and basically just give them some guidance. Most people go wrong between late in like guys like that like me when I was growing up. Most of us go wrong when we turn from 12 to 13. Right, and then we don't have anybody supporting our teenage years, and then you're with other older lads and so on, where it can be a bad move. So adding some value, showing some of these guys that we care. That's only recently just started, and that's something that I'm going to put massive.
You know what, Joseph? I don't personally have any friends with entrepreneurs who are successful making lots of money that aren't giving a lot to charity. I just think not that I wouldn't have, not that I would say I'm not going to be your friend, but I find that when you become successful, assuming that you're a decent person, the step that everybody takes is how can I help people now? How can I give? And you're helping people in your business, especially if you've got a training company like you're now setting up. I've got a training company. I help people in my training company. I'm helping people by providing accommodation to people. I'm helping people. I'm helping the economy. But actually just giving with nothing back, no business, no exchange, just giving somebody because it makes you feel good and because you can. When you've got the money to do that, and not even when you've got the money to do that, I personally would encourage every single listener, even if you've not got much money, to give something, because I think that when you think constantly inward, what can I achieve? What can I do? How can I be successful? How can I, that doesn't actually bring fulfillment. But when you start actually looking outward and looking at who you can help, Albert Einstein says, don't try and be successful, try and be valuable. The successful. And I think that brings true fulfillment.
I don't disagree. And, there comes a time where it does, as we keep saying that, it doesn't matter what you get, what you make, that the only thing that you can do is to help other people, and you have to have something more than just focusing on making cash. You have to have something more than that. And I'd suggest that people pick something that they want to give back on. When I put the Big Brother program out on social media and said what we were doing, people said, well, why aren't you doing it with girls as well? Why are you just doing it with boys? Because I've chosen to target that market because I can add value and help them. So you don't have to, don't necessarily try and give to everybody. Try and people pick and champion their charities for a reason, and it has a deep meaning where you can emotionally connect as well. I think that's an important one, so you can understand the people that you're trying to help. If you've been homeless, help homeless people. If you've had a shit upbringing, help youngsters with a shit upbringing, or whatever it may be.
Have you stayed in touch with any of the contestants on The Apprentice?
Without a doubt. Gary was like my best buddy on there, and we still got a class of 2015 on WhatsApp, a group where all the lads are in there, and some of the girls we keep in touch with as well.
That's great. Do you still watch The Apprentice?
No.
Okay.
I had like a weird emotional disconnect from it after. Because it was such a immense. So I watched the first series after mine, then the second series kind of, and then I just got to a point where every time I heard it, it would just bring back that memory. And I don't know, I've got this weird thing where once I've done something, I don't like to revisit it too much. I like to remember it for what it was, but I don't live in the past. So I always think about forward. So I don't know, I had a strange way that I couldn't watch it because it brought back too many good memories, really. And I don't know, I didn't really want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
What about looking back? I mean, what was it like sitting down with Lord Sugar, having him as a business mentor? What was that like?
It's kind of one of them pinch yourself moments to. Is this actually real? The first time you went to the board meeting after all the show and there's no cameras, it's like, damn, this is actually happening right now. And I think you think that for a moment, but then you also automatically take it in your stride. And, I was very focused and this is business. And so, I was just trying to learn as much as I could. And learning every element, learning him, his mannerisms, how he spoke, how boardroom etiquette should be, how you should act when at the right times, the things that you do and the things that you don't do, just take as much value from everything as possible.
That's awesome. So let me ask you one last question. What would be your advice to someone watching this, young person, wanting to be successful in business, in property, as an entrepreneur? What should they do? What are the steps? What are the best pieces of advice you'd give them?
So enter an industry that you know something about. And if you don't know about it, get trained before you start. Associating passion is very, very important because when times get hard, it makes you, it will take you through that because it's more than just doing the job. Don't wait, get started. You need to do things now. The reason that I am successful is because I take action when the when it comes to mind. I don't think about things too long. Believe in yourself. You know, you must believe in yourself first and foremost before anybody will believe in you. You know, you can't go and get investment. You can't go and sell an idea. You can't go out there and win if you don't believe that you can. So make sure you back yourself 100%. Set your goals big. Don't set them to average levels. You're going to limit where you can actually go. And, you know, just dream bigger than you've ever imagined. And finally, so there's value there, is don't blame your circumstances and don't make excuses, right? Lots of people have bad lives. And there's lots of bad things that happen to people. And as much as it's horrible and as much as it's not nice, you can either sit there and make excuses, or you can use that to motivate you and change your future for the positive.
That's really, really powerful. Joseph, it's been an honor having you on the show. I'm sure you'll come back on another day. And all the best in what you're doing. Keep up the great work. And have
Cheers, Sam.
man.
You too, buddy. Thanks, mate.
All right, I'll see you soon.